Hello and welcome to my final reading wrap-up for 2019. I only read 2 books in December, so I will quickly wrap those up and then I'm going to talk a little bit about my reading plans for 2020 as well as some of my plans for my channel for next year. Throughout most of December I read Mapp and Lucia by E.F. Benson. This is a book I found in an op shop. I don't actually have the copy with me now because I lent it to my mum to read over Christmas. This is by a British author written in the 1930s and I was aware of the name because there was a TV adaptation that came out I think in 2014 that I remember was on TV. I didn't actually watch it, but the premise sounded intriguing enough to pick up. So it's actually the 4th in a series, which I didn't realize until I added it to my Goodreads. But this book is the only one that Penguin has published, so I kind of figure if you're gonna read one of the series, this must be the one to read. The book starts off with the character of Lucia just coming out of mourning after her husband has died a few months ago, and she's basically the belle of the town that she lives in, but her and her best friend Georgie decide that they're going to have a little holiday and rent out a house each in a nearby town of Tilling. Lucia decides to rent the house of Elizabeth Mapp, who happens to be the Queen of Tilling, and so the two, Lucia and Mapp as they are called, sort of begin a battle of who can be the most popular in the town. This is exactly what you would expect from a book about upper to middle class English people in the 1930s. It's kind of a little bit Agatha Christie but without the murders, or even a little bit Nancy Mitford but not quite as witty, I found. I think its biggest strength is its observation of character, even though everything is a little bit over the top or quite over the top in some cases. E.F. Benson has really pinpointed the way that humans who are very greedy for power, even in their own small little way, will behave with each other, and you've got that level of politeness that everyone in society at that time had to maintain. So these two women have to come up with ways and ideas to fight with each other without actually looking like they're doing that. This was definitely a solid 3-star read. The book got a little bit repetitive after a while and didn't really get below surface level in exploring these characters, but it's definitely an insight into the kind of books that were popular around the 1930s in England, and was definitely a fun read if you like that kind of thing. Over Christmas I read The Weekend by Charlotte Wood. I had this on hold in my library for ages and it just happened to arrive just before I went to visit my parents for Christmas. Coincidentally, this book is also set at Christmas, so that was a nice surprise when I started reading. This is about 3 fairly old women. They never specify their ages, but I think they're in their 70s. Their names are Jude, Adele and Wendy, and their friend Sylvie, who was the 4th of their group of friends, has recently died. So they travel north from Sydney to Sylvie's house in a coastal town to sort through her belongings and clear up the place to be sold. It becomes very quickly obvious that Sylvie was the one that was keeping this group of friends together over all these years, and without her the 3 remaining friends find themselves arguing and getting annoyed with each other as each ponder over the life that they have lived. Charlotte Wood is best known for her novel The Natural Way of Things, which won the Stella Prize, which I personally didn't really like. I actually really loved her book Animal People. This is definitely the favourite out of the ones of hers that I've read. For me, The Weekend was somewhere in between the 2 books. I definitely enjoyed it as a character study of 3 older women. I liked it as a book that was set in a summer Christmas, which is not something that we get to read about very often. What didn't work so well for me was that the characters felt more like caricatures at times. I didn't feel like I came across anything new or discovered any new ideas about life or being a woman or aging or any of the things that it sort of addresses in the book, which is not the book's fault at all, but just for me, I didn't find it as an engaging experience as I wanted it to be. The last book I read in 2019 was the first book in the Hunger Games series called The Hunger Games, but because I read the whole trilogy over the Christmas and New Year's Eve break, I figured I'll just wait until my first wrap up of the new year to talk about the trilogy as a whole, because I had a lot of fun rereading those books. So that brings me on nicely to my plans for this channel in 2020. I've decided to not do monthly wrap-ups anymore, so I guess I'm gonna do recent reads videos, or I might call them something else, I'm not sure yet. But basically I don't want to worry so much about having a good amount of books to talk about each month. I'd rather just read as much as comes naturally and then maybe after I've read 4 books, I will then wrap those up. I definitely feel since I started BookTube that there really has been that pressure to really keep up with the whole reading 1 book a week thing that I've been doing for the past few years, and that's also the fault of putting my Goodreads challenge at 52 books. So this year I have put my Goodreads challenge at 24. I'm sure I'll surpass that, and I presume you can adjust the number of books you want to read for that challenge. I'm not sure, maybe once it's set, that's it. I haven't really investigated that. That was just to give me a bit more leeway, so I'm not stressing about that number, and I really am just reading books at an enjoyable pace and also enjoying the books that I read, because then there's also that stress of, well, I'm halfway through this book, and even though I'm kind of bored with it by now, I kind of want to finish it off because I've already put this much effort in, and then at least it can go towards my challenge, and I don't want to do that. I've been seeing a lot of people with similar sentiments on BookTube saying that they really want to focus on quality over quantity, and that's really what I'm aiming to do this year. So another reason that I really want to stop worrying about the quantity of books that I'm reading is because I want to get to the longer books that I put off, because a long book is obviously going to take me longer to read than 1 week. For example, Anna Karenina, which I started months ago. It's been on my reading section on Goodreads for ages. I've read 219 pages out of 963, and I just put it aside so I could focus on reading shorter books to get me through to finishing my Goodreads challenge. I am really enjoying it, so I really do actually want to read it. There's a couple of other larger books on my shelf that I really want to get to this year as well. I've got The Slat by Christos Tsiolkas, which is a sort of classic piece of modern Australian literature. And then I found this in an op shop, and I was kind of curious to read it. It's Testament of Youth by Vera Brittain. I did watch the film. I didn't really like the film that much because I don't think Kit Harington's a very good actor, and Alicia Vikander can't really do a British accent. This is an autobiography about a woman who became a nurse in the First World War, and it's sort of called A Record of a Lost Generation. So I really want to give it a go, even if I find I don't like it and I don't finish it. I'm still always been put off by the length. So hopefully this new regime will mean I'll go to this one as well. So aside from reading less this year, as well as reading quality over quantity, my other goal this year is to do more rereading. I reread quite a few favorites from my childhood this year, and some of them are ending up on my favorite reads of the year list because they just reminded me so much of why I love reading in the first place. There's always that worry that it won't be as good when you read it as an adult, but the ones that I have read that still maintain that magic, that's just such a wonderful feeling. I'm 26. It's got to the point where some of the classics that I read as a teenager, I actually read them about 10 years ago or more, so I shouldn't feel weird about rereading them or as if I'm like missing out on new books that I've never read before because I'm too busy rereading stuff. I think I have earned the right to start rereading. Not that I'm gonna stop reading new books and finding new books. Luckily my library allows me to do that for no charge at all, and I'm old enough so that my opinions on books that I read when I was a teenager may have changed now, or the things that I will gain from reading them may even change. That's something that I'm really curious to find out. I'd also love to do some film and TV wrap-up videos as well, but I really don't want to burden myself with too many goals. Just a quick thank you to everyone who has watched and commented and liked and subscribed over the past year. I'm definitely not the most prolific booktuber, but I still do love being here and making videos and having conversations with everyone, whether it's on my videos or on your videos, and I'm very excited for 2020 to make more videos and to watch all of yours as well. Alright, that's the end of the video. Bye!